everyone! Last week I got a comment asking me to cover You're on Your Own Kid, which is the 5th track off of Taylor Swift's Midnights. When Swifties hear track 5, we know we're in for a treat. A casual listener might not know that Taylor goes out of her way to make the 5th track of every album the most personal and emotional song on the album, and You're on Your Own Kid is no exception. Let's get right into it. The beginning is a very good place to start, so let's take a look at this title first. You're on your own, kid. This sounds like a piece of advice. The speaker is talking directly to this kid and telling them, nobody is going to help you. You have to deal with the situation yourself. And ending the title with kid adds more subtext to this statement. The speaker is calling this person kid, which is kind of patronizing. It comes from this perspective of someone older, with more wisdom. The idea here is that when you get more distance from the problems, you see things more clearly. Taylor uses the same strategy in her song 15 off of Fearless. So just from the title, we can tell that the speaker is reflecting on things that happened in the past using the wisdom they have in the present. When we're looking at these lyrics, I'm going to try and order my thoughts a little bit. So on the left here, we'll write what the speaker is saying, and over here on the right, we'll write what we think the speaker means. Let's start with the first verse here. Summer is one of the 4 seasons, and in literature, we tend to associate the seasons with different life stages. Anyone who is into astrology might also be familiar with this idea. Spring signs like Aries and Taurus represent the beginning of life, and winter signs like Aquarius and Pisces represent the end of life. So let's talk about each of the seasons briefly. Spring is often associated with birth, new beginnings, youth, and early childhood innocence. Summer represents adolescence, the idea of growing up and coming of age and learning more about yourself. This is the period in your life where you're developing your first relationships, which often influence the relationships you'll go on to have throughout the rest of your life. Autumn is a transitional period. It represents maturity and is often associated with the idea of acquainting yourself with the harsh truths of reality, coming to terms with truths you might not want to face. Then we get to the final season, winter. When people approach the end of their lives, they start doing a lot more reflection. They try to make amends with themselves and with other people. Winter can represent death, but it can also represent the end of a cycle before a new one begins, letting go of your old self and becoming someone new. So Taylor Swift starts the song by evoking the imagery of summer. As summer, or her adolescence, goes away, she is forced to grow up and move on. We know from some of her other songs that this is something she has always struggled with. She also struggles with disillusionment, or the idea that the best parts of her life are behind her. She's no longer able to live in these fairy tales and put all her faith in her relationships. What does that leave her with? Yearning. Yearning just means desire, like when you're pining for something. In this case, it's the boy she goes on to sing about throughout the verse. So she's longing for this guy, and she's also longing for the version of herself that was able to have blind faith in these early relationships. She has a crush on him, and he doesn't feel the same way about her, but she holds out hope that he'll change his mind and develop feelings for her anyway. How does she do that? She plays it cool, which essentially just means to pretend that you don't care. She says, I play it cool with the best of them, which alludes to this idea of the best women being the ones that don't show any interest. Girls are only desirable when they don't want you. You have to be elusive so that guys will chase you. This is something young women are taught and reminded throughout their adolescence. If you feign disinterest, it'll make him interested. So she's waiting. She's holding out hope that he will notice her or see her as a potential girlfriend, because at the moment, she feels stuck in the friend zone. She tries to spin this as a good thing. We're the best of friends anyway, which insinuates that being friends is better than nothing. But the way she draws out that word anyway makes it sound like she's trying to convince herself she'll be happy just being his friend, when clearly that's not what she wants. She's treating his friendship as a consolation prize. The next part starts with a phone call. She's on the other end while he's smoking with his friends. This goes against the image of Taylor Swift as an all-American good girl. She's bucking this preconception to show how she's maturing, going from that summery adolescence to the next stage in her life. She hangs out with guys who smoke. Except, she doesn't hang out with him. She's not there, she's on the phone. He's hanging with his boys, and she's excluded. So she's definitely not his girlfriend, but she also doesn't really feel like his friend either. She feels isolated, which she expands on in the next couple of lines. I didn't choose this town, I dream of getting out. She feels like she doesn't fit in. She doesn't like it here. She wants to be somewhere else. So she's longing for something more, longing to go on to greater things. But her affection for him is holding her back. She wants him more than she wants to be free. The chorus illustrates the seasons changing beautifully with this first line. From sprinkler splashes to fireplace ashes. When it's a hot summer day, you run around in sprinklers to cool down. During the cold of winter, you light up a fireplace and burn logs to keep warm. There's more nuance here, though, referring to the same life stages we brought up earlier. Running around in sprinklers is something you do as a little kid, so the idea of summer is yet again intertwined with the idea of youth and innocence. Then you get the imagery of ashes. Ashes are usually associated with death. Phoenixes die by burning to ashes. When people die, they're often cremated and their bodies are reduced to ashes. Even if you're buried, you end up decaying, so there's this idea of dust to dust. Taylor uses the symbolism of winter and ashes to represent the end of this period of her life. She's not a kid anymore. She's running out of hope. She waited ages, past tense, for him to show up, for him to decide that he loves her. And Swift describes this as waiting at a party. Everyone else is more attractive, more interesting, and she's just waiting for him to pick her. The implication here is that he's more interested in other girls, and that he's never going to be with her. Then she states it outright. You never cared. She's doubting herself. Was it all in her head? Were they even friends? She ends the chorus with, "You're on your own, kid." She frames it as a realization she has just now come to. But it has always been the case. You always have been. She has always been alone. Verse 2 skips ahead to the next stage in her life. She moves to Nashville, focuses more on her songwriting, and tries to build herself the life she wants. Great Escape refers to a prison break, which is a metaphor she's applied to her songs previously. Most notably, she uses it in the song Getaway Car, when she sings, "It was the great escape, the prison break, the light of freedom on my face." In Getaway Car, she is referring to the idea of a rebound relationship and the freedom that it brings. In You're on Your Own, Kid, she's referring to escaping from the confines of this unrequited love and moving on to better things in her life. Daisy May was a character from the comic strip Lil Abner. She was in love with the titular character, and he often used this knowledge to take advantage of her, even though he didn't return her feelings. Over the course of the comics, they eventually get married and settle into the classic 1950s domestic bliss. Taylor here is saying, so long, Daisy May. She's done waiting for him to catch feelings for her. She doesn't want to settle down. She has bigger dreams. She's going to escape her town and pursue them instead. The next line refers to a game that kids play. When you have a crush on someone, you take a flower and you pick the petals off one by one. So the first petal is, he loves me, and the next is, he loves me not, he loves me not, etc. So she's illustrating that it was an immature childhood dream. She's realized he's never going to feel the same way she does, so she's going to grow up and move on. I love the way she carries this through to the next line, something different bloomed, to describe the way that things grow up from the dirt. Beautiful things can come from bad situations. So Taylor takes this heartbreak and the way she feels different and alone, and she starts writing songs about it instead. And those very songs are the songs that she uses to start her career and find success. She doesn't describe it in terms of the success she finds, though. She doesn't say, I'll go somewhere better, I'll make it someday. She describes it by referencing the things she's getting away from. She'll run away from the bad feelings, the small town, the boy that didn't love her. She's still not running towards something. She's still stuck running away and writing these same breakup songs. When we return to the chorus, it's from a slightly different perspective. She's not that little girl stuck in that town anymore. She's getting herself out. These ashes take on a more positive meaning here. Yes, her previous life and her previous self are no more, but she has risen from the ashes to become the new her, and she is going to take advantage of the new opportunities in her life, or create some where there are none. She changes up the chorus in the second line, I called a taxi to take me there, which creates this picture of the big city, coinciding with her move to New York in the 1989 era. She's finally made it to the big leagues. She's a real musician. But she's not doing the driving. She called a taxi. So it seems like she doesn't feel fully in control of the drive, i.e., her life. And she's still thinking the same things she did back home. She's at the party and it's full of better bodies. Physically, she's surrounded by models and actresses that conform to perfect beauty standards. And it's around this time that she starts to give in to these old patterns of disordered eating, which comes up later in the song. But there's also an emphasis on better in better bodies. Now that she's made it, she's surrounded by other successful artists, which leads to this feeling of imposter syndrome. She sees that her dreams aren't rare. Everyone else is trying to get the recognition and opportunities that she has. There are lots of more talented musicians, so why is she successful? She reiterates all of these ideas with the last couple lines. She's in a new place, but she still faces all of the same problems. Even though everyone is trying to get in her circle, she still feels like an outsider. The third chorus changes the most. To put your blood, sweat, and tears into something means to work hard at it and give it everything that you have. She gave everything she had, but she also gave literal sweat performing on tour every night, and literal tears that she cried by sharing and reliving these emotional moments for her listeners. The things she writes are deeply personal. She puts every single part of herself into it. She hosted parties, trying to get people to like her, trying to be the lovable, fun philanthropist, exactly what the paparazzi wants, conforming to all of these ideas of what people think she should be. She refers to starving her body, alluding to her eating disorder, which has been carried throughout the song. It was also shown in the Anti-Hero music video, although it got taken out due to controversy, which is honestly a shame. Again, she's trying to fit into these unattainable beauty standards, how people think she should look. It revolves around others. She's doing everything right, playing by the rules, trying to be America's sweetheart, waiting for someone to come save her with a perfect kiss. She keeps chasing that fairy tale romance she's been writing about since she was a kid, but it relies on a man to get her out and save her from her unhappiness and make everything okay. Obviously, that didn't work out well for her. Some of her exes didn't have kind things to say about her, trying to tear her down to make themselves feel better. The media used her idealization of love against her by trying to reduce her entire personality to the stereotype of the crazy ex-girlfriend who will ruin your life and write vapid breakup songs about it. Eventually, those same jokes got old. They scrutinized who she dated, how she acted, which words she used, what she wore, who she was friends with. Remember the interview of the woman asking her if she'd leave the Grammys with a lot of men tonight? Remember how she went on Ellen again and again only to be asked about every middle-aged man she was in the same room as? That clip that circulated online from Kanye's Life of Pablo tour, where the entire audience chanted, "Fuck Taylor Swift." All the snake emojis and the hashtag Taylor Swift is over party, so on, so forth. A lot of these jokes were rooted in misogyny. They asked personal, violating questions. She realized that people didn't see her as a real human being with genuine feelings and lived experiences. She was just a joke. She's too big to be relatable now. She's so big that not even the people who used to be her best friends know how to talk to her and be around her anymore. I Took the Money might be referring to a song by her producer Jack Antonoff, Don't Take the Money. In this case, it's about taking the easy way out and sacrificing personal relationships for career gains. She sold out and lost a lot of friends and relatability, and even lost her ability to connect on that personal level with her fans. I love the Carrie reference here. My best friend in high school unironically compared me to Carrie once, and that's just stuck with me. Taylor feels isolated and ostracized, but like Carrie, she discovers new power within herself in her lowest moment. Looking here, you can see how she contrasts new opportunities with the sacrifices she's made, showing a constant trade-off. She's burned bridges, which means she's sacrificed relationships. She made friendship bracelets with temporary allies that turned against her, or she outgrew over time. But she puts the losses next to the good things she's gained. She's taking big steps in her career and personal life. She's experiencing unique, once-in-a-lifetime moments that most people will never see. Listeners can observe something similar with her use of burning bridges in Call It What You Want. The line goes, "Bridges burn, I never learn, at least I did one thing right." Immediately after her life has fallen apart, she realizes how to see the good in the bad. She lost a lot of unreliable relationships, but she found real love worth holding on to with her boyfriend Joe Alwyn. It's the same sentiment she carries into You're on Your Own, Kid. She has nothing to be afraid of, because there will always be an opportunity to find the good in the bad. As she closes the song, she flips the meaning of the title. You're on your own, kid, but it's optimistic. She can face this, because she always has been alone. She's never needed anyone else. She's reminding herself that she will be okay on her own, and she's telling her audience this too. Even when you feel like you're losing a lot of things in your life, maybe you don't even recognize yourself, you'll have new opportunities to take advantage of. You're on your own, but you'll be okay.